2025 is shaping into a decisive year. Not because markets are volatile, but because global liquidity may be reaching its peak. Today, we decode why the world's money supply is approaching a structural turning point, and how this shift reshapes capital flows, the dollar, and global power. This is the liquidity peak of 2025. For almost a decade, the world has been operating under one consistent force, abundant liquidity. But now, the data is turning. BIS reports show that the pace of global liquidity expansion has slowed for 2 consecutive quarters. Not reversed, but slowed to its tightest gradient since 2017. This matters because liquidity is not just money, it is the oxygen of global capital. When the oxygen thins, markets don't fall immediately, they lose acceleration. This slowdown is the first signal that the global liquidity curve is bending. Every time global liquidity tightens, the dollar absorbs the pressure first. Not because it's weak, but because it is the system's anchor. Here's what we're seeing. Higher demand for dollar collateral, slower offshore USD credit growth. Increased reliance on short-term liquidity lines. A rise in emergency USD funding channels. This isn't a crisis. It's the market telling us the system is approaching its upper capacity. And when a system hits capacity, rebalancing begins. Energy is acting as the shock absorber of this global liquidity plateau. Why? Because when liquidity stalls, capital seeks assets that can withstand tightening, and energy is the core of the world's productive base. This is why we're seeing multi-region revaluation of oil, increased investment into strategic reserves, emerging markets absorbing more flow, energy-linked currencies gaining stability. Energy is no longer just a commodity. It's the pressure valve of the global system. Japan plays a special role in this transition. With decades of low rates and deep institutional capital pools, Japan becomes the silent liquidity stabilizer whenever global liquidity peaks. Japanese capital behaves differently. It reallocates, not retreats. It absorbs volatility instead of amplifying it. It moves slowly but with enormous weight. This is why Japan remains a key reference point for markets in 2025. It is the quiet counterbalancer, a world approaching liquidity saturation. A liquidity peak is not the end of growth, it is the end of excess. When the pool of global money slows, capital becomes selective. Priorities shift and power begins to reorganize. 2025 is not a crisis year, it is a recalibration year. If you want the signal behind the noise, subscribe to Global Pulse 360 Live and stay ahead of the structural shifts shaping our world. Here's the signal behind the noise. Global Pulse 360 Live.